y'all, it's Kortney, and this episode is going to sound a little bit different. We recorded this live in Toronto celebrating International Women's Day, and man, I had so much fun. My special guest was Lindsay Ell, who is also originally from Canada and transplanted right in the middle of Nashville, Tennessee, where I am. And funny enough, we had to go all the way back to Canada to hang with one another. She left her record deal to start fresh, and she landed herself playing, goodness gracious, in Vegas with Shania, hosting Canada's Got Talent now, and making a record that she truly believes in after being hit by the shit stick of life. I mean, y'all, we covered it all. So enjoy my conversation with Lindsay Ell with a live audience on International Women's Day. Y'all are drinking already in the audience.
I love it. Everybody's like cozy.
Yes. Okay. Welcome to the first live Shit Stick of Life podcast. I am so happy you all are here. I love Lindsay's doing snaps for it because she is my live podcast virgin.
That's what I told her backstage, and I'm like, can I even say that? I didn't even know if that.
Award-winning a musician and television personality. Please give a warm round of applause to Lindsay Ell. Hi, everybody.
Hey, girl, it's been forever.
Girl, you know what's funny? We don't live very far from each other. We
don't.
used to live in the same neighborhood for probably, 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And we still can't find time to hang with one another.
Exactly.
We have to come back to Canada to hang,
So true.
which is amazing. But Lindsay, okay, so first of all, I've been listening to your new record all week. My assistant is
so
here
much.
while I'm filming, and it's amazing. Have you guys heard it yet? Love my. I mean, it's. I think profoundly different than anything else you've recorded. It feels so honest.
Yeah, I feel that it's different from a lot of the music I've recorded too, in a great way. And I think that when I look up to my favorite artists, I look up to them for like constantly reinventing themselves and their sound, and so I'm just trying to do that and follow like the little whimsical muse of my creative heart.
Well, you can tell. Now, we have a bunch of people in the audience, but for those of you listening as well, I want you to give us a little bit of background because you're from Canada.
Yeah.
How did you end up in Nashville?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm from Calgary. I grew up in Calgary for the first 20 years of my life, and when I was in Canada, I never released anything to radio. I sort of bought a 15-passenger band van when I was 16 years old. It was real sexy. I was the coolest kid in high school. And drove that and just basically played shows. I mean,
Were you actually cool in high school?
Not at all.
Not at all?
I was a nerd.
I was also a nerd.
I had no friends.
I showed up to 9th grade in an orange tracksuit top and bottom, which, by the way, is cool now.
I mean,
okay,
I would
at
be like,
46.
that is styling. That is like
Thank you very
trendsetter.
much. Yes, I agree. But my friends from back then say they made fun of me.
I mean, I was just kind of I went to a school where you taught yourself, and so you still went to school, but it was kind of like you homeschooled yourself.
Like Montessori?
At school. No, it was like a Catholic high school in Calgary, but
they just gave up.
But pretty much they're like,
Just
well,
go do it
good
yourself.
luck. Hope it goes well. But I finished high school a year early because I was just so, again, nerd. And I was just so ready to get out on the road and play shows. And so I started playing shows when I was 10 years old. And then, you know, my dad would drive me to shows when I was growing up. And then when I got the band van, then I started commuting myself all across the country, just playing shows. And then I finally went down to LA for about 6 months.
At what age?
When I was 19, just
Okay.
to write songs. And then somebody's like, I think you'd really like Nashville. I think you should check out Nashville. I think you just like the community.
Did you
there."
consider yourself country at the time?
No, I grew up loving country music. I loved Shania. I see the Shania Twain t-shirt in the front row. Hello, shout out. Shania, obviously like any Canadian girl, or any girl really on the planet. Shania was just such an idol. And I remember listening to her when I was 8 years old being like, I want to be her. Like I would practice her songs in the mirror.
She wasn't country, though. I mean, at the time, country music, Nashville was not welcoming her with open arms.
She was very progressive. She was very country.
Progressive. She was country,
but she was very progressive. So was Garth Brooks. Like, there's so many artists that like sort of pivot the direction of where a genre goes and where a genre grows.
She redefined country at the time.
Yeah, she did. And so so I was so inspired by Shania, but then in my teens, I got into Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton and all of this like blues, rock, and pop music. And so when I went down to LA and when I finally went to Nashville, I wanted to be like a female John Mayer. And I was like, I just want to write cool songs and play lots of guitar solos and make it sound cool.
Were you singing before you were playing guitar and piano, or were you playing before you were singing?
I was singing before I was playing. I sang the minute I could talk.
Really?
I would annoy my brother. I would like sit in our staircase and just sing songs.
So you were driving that ship. So I also grew up in Ontario, Canada, in Sudbury, actually. And I had my eye on the ball to move to Nashville at 18.
Why?
Because I was going to be a singer. I was going to get a record deal. And I did identify very much with country music because my dad grew up on country music. The very first record he ever played me was the Judds.
Yeah.
And so but I was driving the ship. When people say, were your parents pushing you, or were they, they were certainly encouraging me. I had it inside of me. Do you have that feeling like you were driving that ship, or did they identify and kind of nudge really early?
I think ever since I was little, I had that feeling like I was driving the ship. But I will say, when you are so young and you move to a town and then you're surrounded by a whole bunch of like industry people, and it's not even like they're being vultures, but they just surround you, and you're so young that you're like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. And so I was just given advice from all around me. And I think I had my eyes set on the prize of like, I want to be able to tour the world and headline arenas, and whatever will get me there, I will do. Like, tell me how far I need to run and I will run further.
Oh my
and so
God,
I just was never afraid of it, but it was dangerous because I think, they were like, okay, you need to go on radio tour. And I was like, okay, I'll go on 3 radio tours. And I really tried to like take everything. I'm definitely an overworker and workaholic and
do you want to talk about the radio tours
overachiever?
Because I also went on that radio. Well, now I didn't do it. Lindsay did, 'cause she's done it over and over and over again. I burned out after the first one. But when I moved to Nashville, very similar to you, in that first week, I was offered a publishing deal, a management deal. I had never written a thing in my life. So publishing deal, I had to ask what it was. A management deal, a recording contract with Disney, which was Lyric Street at the time. But I felt ready for it. I felt like, wow, this is exactly how my Nashville experience was going to be. Now, unlike Lindsay, that was the beginning of the end of my music career. But I remember when I got the call after being in, what we call the Artist Protection Program for a couple of years, making a record, to go on the radio tour, I had no idea what was ahead of me.
Radio tours are pretty intense. I mean, they're like, okay, we're going to put you through media training and really coach you.
Which I did. Did you do it?
I didn't really, because I just would talk and
naturally
say a lot of things. And they were like, she's fine. We'll figure it out. But I had no idea how intense it was going to be. Like radio tour, you normally visit 3 to 4 cities a day.
Guys, you have breakfast in a city. They fly you or drive you to a second city. You have lunch with more radio programmers. You start forgetting where you are, who their names are, and then you do dinner somewhere else, and then you die.
Sometimes in the afternoon, sometimes in the dinner. And every stop, you're playing the same 2 or 3 songs, usually like your first single.
Yeah, and answering the same 2 or 3 questions.
Answering the same questions. It's like Groundhog Day 4 times a day for like 2 or 3 months.
Oh, mine was 4 or 5 months, but I was also filming I was also filming One Life to Live at the time in New York City. So we were working it all in. I was probably the most exhausted in my entire life was that. But then I was faced with, and it's International Women's Day. So yay to all of us. And
so
yay to
many
the handful of men
the
that are in the audience who I totally respect for coming today, especially you in the front row. I'm already a fan, okay? Do you understand me? But there were some wild stories. So it is predominantly run by men. in this industry, especially at that time. Yeah. I am 10 years and maybe even a little bit older than Lindsay. We don't have to talk about it, okay?
Whatever.
But I do a little Botox, so it helps me out.
Don't we all?
But I remember watching another friend who I will just say, off the podcast privately who it was, but we were kind of both on radio tours at the same time, and I watched a radio exec hold her CD, because that's what it was at the time, over a garbage can. And this was one of the things that we would hear about, and I was like, there's no way it would happen. And they said, tell me why I should play your record. And she cried. This sweet girl who's probably one of the best voices that has ever come out of Nashville. But I have a lot of those stories. Did you have those experiences?
Oh, yeah. Radio tour was wild and crazy. And it was really my first experience of meeting the industry, because before then I'd been indie, I got offered a record deal when I was 16 years old in Toronto. And God bless the head of the record label at that time. Shout out Alan Reed. I love you so much, and I will to the day I die. Slid a record deal across the table and was like, here's your record deal, but I don't think you should sign it.
Wow.
And I was like, but I want to be a rock star, and this is the piece of paper that's going to make me do it. And he was just like, you have so much talent, and you really should sign something in the States. You can do it.
Mm-hmm. Because it ties you up. Record deals are infamous for being many, many records deep before your first record even comes out.
Yeah, and nowadays it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But you definitely want to be sure of your team. It's just like jumping into anything.
What advice would you give somebody else coming to Nashville now, knowing it has changed tremendously? Like some of the things that were happening when I was on a record deal or a radio tour, I'm doing the math here, 25 years ago, could not happen today.
Yeah, there were definitely some wild.
There were some wild
that we don't need to go into those stories.
Yeah. But
advice, I'd probably say, figure out who you are. And that's a lifelong thing. That's not an easy sentence, but the best thing I think that will fuel you and the art you want to make is really having a good sense of self, and also knowing how that will change throughout your life.
Do you think that's possible? This is a real question. At 20 years old, to have that sense of self, for some people, I think maybe. But do you think?
I think it's possible to know what you like.
Okay,
and that's in my opinion, the first step to a sense of self is your preferences. It's as simple as what kind of eggs do you like? Mm-hmm. It's like that scene in Runaway Bride when Julia Roberts is making all the eggs to try to figure out what her favorite kind of eggs are. But I think going from what you like and going from, okay, well, this is the kind of music I think is cool, at least from the perspective of a songwriter or an artist, really letting that little voice inside of you lead the way, because you can be surrounded by so many really brilliant minds, but sometimes they can steer you in directions that aren't necessarily aligned with.
And this is exactly what makes you a great person for Canada's Got Talent, because you are going to be able and have been able to inspire young people in a way to have a fresh perspective, but also, give them the courage that they need to actually stand up for themselves in those moments.
Canada's Got Talent has been such a cool experience. It's been so wild and wonderful to be able to give a spotlight to really talented humans, and not just musicians and singers who obviously have a soft spot in my heart, but acrobats and dancers and magicians and people who you don't even know how to call their talent a word. But sometimes people walk out there and you're like, I don't really know how to explain this, but it's so amazing. But to be able to give them a worldwide spotlight so that their talent can be seen. We have so much talent in Canada. There's so much talent in this country.
Do they have to be Canadian to be on Canada's Got Talent?
No, they don't.
Okay.
Previously, I think in our first few seasons they did, but now we're welcoming guests from
because there are lots of people that live in Canada
all over the world. But I will say that being able to shoot the show in Canada, we have a spotlight for a lot of Canadian talent, and there are so many incredible, famous Canadians all over the planet. There's clearly something in the water up here.
Okay, so just tell me when When you're watching all of the acts, okay, take music aside, okay, set it aside. What other genre are you excited to see? Like, is it the jugglers? Is it the the acrobats? Like, is there one that you're like, oh
I
man?
think it is the acrobats, because we have like a lot of like Cirque du Soleil performers, and they will do things on our stage that I'm like, how is a human body like the way they bend, the way they like spin like really high.
Maybe
you can tell
do
I
that.
was
like
not
Pink.
a gymnast. That would be that would be terrible. Watching me like spin upside down on a stage, but yeah, it's just it's so amazing. We had an act last year. They were called Matt and Mim, and I believe they were both in Cirque, but they roller skated on this like really tall cylinder, and they roller skated in a circle holding each other really fast, and he would like hold this thing in his mouth that he like connected to her bun, and then he would like fly her in the air. And
This
I was
sounds like my personal
is
nightmare.
this happening? Like, this is something that I think would be like CGI'd or something. But I'm like, this is crazy.
I'm out already. I'm already.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Okay, so because it is International Women's Day, if you could put together, I love me a good girls' night.
Yeah.
Okay, if you could put yourself a good girls' night together, women dead or alive,
Ooh, I love this question.
who would it be?
Okay, well, for sure the two of us.
Yeah, duh.
And all of us here, we're just gonna have a big girls' night party. Okay, sort of the women that I'm really loving right now, and this will completely prove my status of a nerd, as people would be like naming like actresses and like all these famous people. I'm like, okay, so these are my favorite authors that I like really am obsessed about. So Elizabeth Gilbert, she wrote Eat, Pray, Love.
Yes, I love
Yeah,
that.
we can clap for her. I got to see
Is she
her.
still living?
Yeah, she's still living. She's still living.
Just checking.
She's still living. She's just so cool. She's just so cool, and has been honestly like a very strong inspiration in this part of my life, where I have not been afraid to start over and not been afraid to pivot and not been afraid to be like, I have changed my mind about a few things. And sometimes we go through these chapters in our life where we just change our mind, and it's okay. In fact, it's good. It shows that like you're growing and you're changing and you're trying new things, which I think life is all about. So Elizabeth Gilbert is so cool. Glennon Doyle also so cool.
I read the book last year. It's amazing. Yeah.
I mean, we need to throw Oprah in there because God bless.
Yes, I have Michelle Obama on that list.
Yeah, Michelle Obama. We should throw her in there
I've got
too.
Toni Morrison, who's one of my favorite
I love
authors.
it.
Maybe Dolly Parton, because that
Of
woman.
course.
How
can we not?
I have a really very Nashville Dolly story, but my daughter had some friends over, and one of the little, they go by they, so I'll use the pronouns they. They were sitting there, and I have a big Dolly Parton book, and they said, you like Dolly? And I said, oh, I mean, hello, who does not? And they said, oh, yeah, that's my auntie. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And I leaned into this, 14-year-old. I was like, tell me more, child. Just tell me more. So anyway, Lennox, my daughter, started hanging out with this sweet little person. And I, one day their mom messaged me and said, hey, can you drop them off at my work? And I was like, absolutely. Well, it was Dolly's house.
Was that the coolest day of your life?
It was the place,
Okay.
the place in the city near 12 South. It's amazing. And
The
other
place
people know, yes.
in-
It's one of her places, okay? But she often is at this spot, and the gates wouldn't open. So I jumped out of the car, and I was like calling the mom, and I said, it's okay. Like, I'm happy to walk them in. And they're like, it's okay. We've got them on camera. I made a total freaking fool of myself. I don't do that for anybody.
I'll walk them in. I'll stay for tea.
Nothing.
I
was like, I was that person you couldn't get rid of in that moment. And they're like, it's okay. I'm 14. I can walk through my auntie's house. I'm like, but it's Auntie Dolly. Do you have any idea?
That's really awesome.
Do you have a Nashville story when you came where you were like, you found yourself in a place where you were like, wow?
Yeah. I mean, it was a couple years from being in town, and I remember I got this call on my phone from a number I didn't have in my phone, so I never pick up numbers that I don't have in my phone. And then it was like, ping, you have one new voicemail. And so I listened to the voicemail, and it's like, hey, Lindsay. My New Zealand accent is going to be terrible. This is Keith Urban, and I would just like to talk to you about this song and ask if you'd be interested to sing on it. And I was like, I had to sit down. I was like, Keith Urban just left me a voicemail? What? Like, what? So it was probably the first moment I was like, these artists are real humans.
They are,
and they're real
humans.
people.
Yes,
and they get your phone number and call you. And
yes. And usually I'm even pretty cool about that. But I was chairing this event for a theater company, and a lot of celebrities have their kids in this theater company. So Ryan, my sweet husband, who's going to walk in, I'm sure, at some point tonight, his flight's delayed. I said, listen, the event's next week. We're just going to go see the show tonight. And so we sit down because we had this little reserved area. And I said, hey, don't look now, but Nicole and Keith are behind me. Of course, he freaking turns around like a moron. I mean, I was just so embarrassed. I said, baby. He goes, listen. And my husband has no game, guys. He doesn't have a game. He's just a simple, honest guy. I absolutely love it. And he's like, hey, she once waved to me at a Blue Jays game when I was little, and I feel like I need to tell her. I was like, please don't. Please, God, please don't. Please don't. Okay.
So did he?
No. So
Okay,
then we went to
good.
the event, and of course I put their table up front with a bunch of other people, like Brad Paisley, and and we were to the next table, and all night he threatened me to go up, which I'm sure was just to get a rise out of me, which is easy to do. Okay, well, I want to break it down a little bit because, you know, as somebody who has, well, first of all, this podcast came out of a real troubling time in my life. And, you know, my friends, I kept getting hit by things left and right. And my girlfriends, who are very Southern, I've lived in Nashville almost 28 years, would say, oh, honey, you just been hit by the shit stack of life. And that's where the name came from. But, man, that just, the whole tree was, you know, falling on me at certain parts. And I'm on the other side. Pardon?
Do you want to tell us about it?
Well, you know, I have started to share, and I feel like often I find myself in these situations on live podcasts or podcasts where
Same.
I'm protecting so many people.
Yeah.
And so I have learned that what I have to do is heal myself. I can't heal anybody else. It's the whole let them theory. I have to let people show me who they are. Just like Mel Robbins should be on that girls' night, by the way.
Mel Robbins. I'm just finishing her book. Yeah, it's so good.
Great. So am I. But she, you know, those are my words this year to get me through the year. Let them. Let people show you who they are. Let people be who they are. And then let me make the decision on how I'm going to react to that. When you're reading this book, because you are, how is that impacting your life now? And were you already moving towards that in this last stage of your life that led you to, you know, some healing from sexual assault, from all the things that you've had to endure?
Yeah, I got diagnosed with an eating disorder 2 years ago, and it was sort of the disruptor I needed. I had an eating disorder for 20 years, and I didn't know I did. And eventually, I remember, like, the night I was crying on my kitchen floor. Not to get graphic, but I guess this is also what we do on live podcasts.
That's right.
We just do get right into it. I was, like, shoving everything in my kitchen in my face, and I couldn't stop myself from eating. Like, I couldn't physically stop, and I was like, I need help. I can't do this alone anymore. And so I went to go see a lot of smart doctors and therapists and found an ED therapist, and then got diagnosed with anorexia. And I was like, what? I'm not anorexic. I'm not skin and bones. And they were like, Lindsay, anorexia is not a body type. It is a behavior. And through the past 2 years, I'm so grateful for that diagnosis, because it was like the turning point of where I just started asking myself a lot of questions. I feel like ever since I was little, I was sexually assaulted when I was 13. And from that point forward, I really developed my eating disorder, because at 13, I was just trying to find grip on control. And
Anything to mask the pain. Anything to feel.
And at 13, that looked like my relationship with food. It was very easy to control, like, when I ate, when I didn't eat, how much I ate. And that made me feel like I had a grip on something. But then you do that from 13 on, and it was just sort of the way of life. And also I chose to go into the entertainment industry, which I will say is not the best place for eating disorders.
It's not a great place to heal.
It's not a great place to heal for that, at least. I mean, it's like the breeding ground of like supporting never eating. I mean, I have so many stories of where I would like show up to photo shoots and I would be like trying on my wardrobe and it was like a little tight and they were like, oh yeah, just don't eat or drink anything for the next 14 hours and you'll be fine.
Oh.
And I was like, oh yeah, this is part of the job. This is just what we do. And it's like, no, that's actually really crazy. Now I can know that. But yeah.
Well, and also back then, it's again changed a little bit, not that much, but people feel like they can talk about your body when there are a bunch of people behind a camera and they're spending $50,000 on a photo shoot for the album cover and they say, oh, you know, let's move her this way. The angle's really much better for her hips. Or, you know, I had somebody say, can we just kind of give her a little help in the bust area? And I mean, I was 21.
Yeah. Or like, can she lose weight before we release this next song?
Wow.
And so it's just, you know, and from growing up already having the eating behaviors that I had, I just got really good at numbing out my own feelings to the point where I was also really good at just walking on stage and smiling and putting on a great show. And I love performing. It is like my favorite thing to do on the face of the planet. Like it's my favorite thing to play songs, especially these girls in the front know every word to every song. But it's my favorite thing to do. And I think I got so used to just walking it on stage being like, okay, I'm in show mode. Everything's okay. And then away from the stage, you think that you should flip back to like your normal life. But I kind of just like always went in show mode and I never knew how to break out of it until a couple years ago when my ED therapist was like, okay, well, how do you actually feel about all of this? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, what does that mean? And so... yeah, a couple years ago, I just started asking those questions, and it got me to the point where I just couldn't unsee the things I was finally discovering. I mean, I felt like I was so new at actually like feeling my feelings in a lot of ways, and so I walked into the head of my previous label's office and was like, "I love you so much, but I need you to let me go," and I completely changed.
Like ask for release from your record deal.
Yeah. I completely changed my entire team. I like 180'd a lot of my structural life in my career.
Keith Urban did that many years ago when after he got out of rehab, he fired his whole band and he started over because it was just constant reminders of what was going on. At least that's what I heard, and I knew somebody in the band. But.
Yeah, sometimes it's good to clean slate things. And all I knew was I just needed to follow my heart, and I needed to make music that felt good and that inspired me. And I was eventually going to find a place and a home that felt right for that.
So, you know, I think I know the answer to this question, but it says, what I wrote down was, do you think the industry perpetuates unrealistic beauty standards, or are we, like the women, are we the ones that tell ourselves that now, today?
I think it's the industry.
You do?
100%. Yeah, because I think that it's what we've been taught is what sells and what makes money. And so as women who have been like taught in our whole lives to like follow and do this, and you need to look beautiful, and you need to follow rules, you need to be like dainty, and you need to be graceful, and like you need to be all these things. I think that we just are really good at following rules, so to speak, of like how we should be and how we should look and what you're supposed to sound like.
But we as women also have to realize that we have a lot of control. You know, we have a lot of buying power, and we get to decide where that money gets spent, which companies, how we as mothers are going to either break those cycles or not break those cycles. I'm around a lot of moms because I'm a mom of 3 kids, not kids anymore, but kids. And I've noticed that I have some mom groups that say things like, damn, she's real smart. And other mom groups that say, gosh, she's so pretty. So it really is, we have to start changing the cycle and deciding. Like I walk into some of the big box stores now and I'm seeing full size, plus size women. And I'm like, heck yes, let's do that. But we have to dictate where our money is going.
Yeah. I think as women, we have the power to change it. But I think the industry has led us to this place where we're so used to being fed what is the like ideal woman, like what she sounds like, what she looks
True,
like.
and I think even shows like Canada's Got Talent and, you know, American Idol, I think it's opened up our eyes to what talent can look like. It doesn't, remember the first seasons of some of those shows way back in, you know, in the day with Simon Cowell. It even changed him.
Totally.
How he looked at it. So I feel, I feel encouraged, I have to say.
Well, and even as much as social media is sometimes the death of me, it also is so beautiful because it lets anybody get a phone and anybody put something on the internet that can go viral in a matter of hours.
Everyone has a voice. So I remember when you came out about your disorder and your eating disorder, you came out and there was an immediate amount of respect and support because you released shame from a lot of people. And we have to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think what you can do on social media is very powerful. You can like forward messages that allow people to release shame or empower people to want to seek therapy.
And yet people will still say, I'm sure to you, I know they say that to me, they'll still say, oh my gosh, you're so much more real. I needed this. I really struggle on social media. So it's an interesting conversation because it's out there for the taking, but we have to change our algorithms. That's what I'm saying. We have the power. What you look at and who you lean into on social media, there will be more of that tomorrow. Do you have a healthy relationship with social media?
Getting healthier.
Yeah,
I have deleted Instagram off my phone so many times. I've actually had to put it on like the last page of my phone because it just is like such a knee-jerk reaction that like when I'm waiting in a line, I can like close my eyes and I like know how to perfectly get to Instagram. And then I would just find myself just like opening up Instagram as like my habit of what I do. And I'm like, this needs to stop. So I just constantly move the app on my phone.
That's a great idea.
That I just can't do it.
Oh my gosh, that's brilliant. Because when mine get mixed up, I feel very frustrated, but maybe that's the trick.
I want that. I want, so I only go on Instagram now to intentionally post something and I never scroll anymore. And I try to like not go on social media before noon.
That is
it's hard
really
sometimes, or sometimes if I need to post something.
I'm looking at my assistant in the audience. She's like, it's okay.
Sometimes if I need to post something, that doesn't happen. But if I have like a day when I'm at home, I'm like, I'm not going to go on that thing, man. My mental health is so important to me. When I get on those apps and keep scrolling, like my view of, and I can be having a perfectly good day and I've worked really hard at like loving myself. I mean, I wrote a flippin' record about it. But I will get on that app and see anybody like having the time of their life. And I'm like, man, what am I doing wrong?
That's because grief is a bitch. And grief rears its dirty little head. So things come back up, right? So like I can be looking at, videos of whales in the wild because that's what my algorithm is. Whales and turtles with, stuck in plastic and they're saving them and then I'm crying. Anyway, it's a long
I wish my algorithm was animals.
I know, well, listen. But then I get to the story about like a mother-daughter or something that I'm struggling with, not with my own daughter, but my family. And I am just a ball full of tears. And
that's good though.
It's good unless you're like taking your kid to school. It's a little weird. But, it's good. It's just, I don't want to cry every day. I'm a crier for sure. So like, that's how I reset my nervous system. How do you reset your nervous system?
I mean, how long is this podcast? Let's get comfy here.
Because mine, I learned, is through crying. I don't really drink. I don't do drugs.
Crying is amazing.
Crying is how I do it. I will purposely watch like a really sad movie like Beaches, not the one on Lifetime, the real one, okay, with Bette Midler. Don't watch the new one. Guys, I am like sobbing snot out of every orifice of my body when I'm watching that movie.
So I'm probably going to get
ugly podcast.
I'm probably
going
to
get producers over there going, really? Snot in every orifice? Did you have to say that?
I'm probably going to get these like little facts wrong, but when you like are really crying, like intensely crying, the chemicals that are in your tears have the ability to like kill a small rodent.
Dr. Ell, I love this advice.
Well, no. So this just proves.
No,
this just proves
I'm going with
that
Dr. Ell.
that you need to get that out of your body.
Yeah.
Like crying is so healthy.
Can we watch a sad movie together?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's watch a real.
Yeah.
What's the saddest movie that you ever watched?
Oh my gosh. This is a really hard question.
The saddest movie.
The saddest movie? What's the saddest movie you've ever watched?
Life is Beautiful was really
yeah.
damn sad, y'all.
That's so
if you've
sad.
never seen it, it was just on the other day. I've only watched
So
it twice.
sad.
I watched it the first time and swore I could never watch it again, and it was on. There's another movie, and it's called like either Life or House. It's about a guy that lives on a beautiful cul-de-sac in California with the ugliest house, and everybody's been wanting him. What is the movie called, if anybody knows it? And everybody wants him to tear it down. But he's just stuck in his ways, and he's got this little crappy house in this beautiful cul-de-sac, and he gets cancer. And his child, he's not really close with, oh my God, I'm gonna cry.
That's good. Let's just bring on those tears.
This is not what I meant to do.
I'm gonna buy you a minute. It's called Life as a House.
Life is a house. Anyway, they built the house together.
Those chemicals need to come out of your body, Kortney. You're doing a great
Okay,
job
take over
to your
the
nervous
podcast,
system.
Lindsay.
Okay. What are other methods that we can use to regulate our nervous system? Okay, as cheesy as it sounds, little things like breathing or meditating.
Oh, I want
or
to punch people and they tell me to meditate. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
I
can't
used to
do
be
it.
this person.
Really? Tell
I
me
used to
how.
be
I
this
can't do
person.
it.
And it's like, it just doesn't need to have rules. Like people are like, you need to meditate for 10 minutes a day or something. I'm
Okay.
like, sometimes I don't have 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I just, like anytime you can just get quiet, even if
Okay.
it's for 60 seconds. Like before
Well,
I go
wore
to bed.
one of those laser masks last night, and I was pretty damn
That's
quiet for about
perfect.
10 minutes. So maybe I just need to do that and
Yeah.
just like not watch TV, put it on, and just
Yeah,
Thank
like
you for the tissue.
meditating doesn't need to be this like very frilly thing.
Okay.
Like I just
Doing it
before
wrong.
I go to sleep, I like sit on my bed for 60 seconds and just like let myself sit there.
Yeah.
And you'll think about all of these things. You know, you don't need to like clear your mind or whatever. Like
Yeah.
your brain will be like all over the place, but that's the point.
Okay, I can probably do that actually. The mask.
I have faith in you. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know, I feel like we might have some audience questions. So I'm going to actually ask the producer while we're sitting in all this, since I'm like still teary-eyed. Do we want to take some audience questions? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Awesome possum. Let's do this.
If you ask a question, by the way, we've got a bunch of giveaways. And just for asking a question, you never know what we might put in your hands. We've got some Lindsay
Never
Ell
know.
swag bags.
Can I enter that one?
We've got some.
Is that, am I ineligible?
I
We've
got
got
you,
a Women
girl. I
in
got
Media
you.
merch prize pack. We've got signed posters. Everything in the Lindsay Ell prize packs, by the way, is signed. Okay, so who's got a question for the girls?
We've got some tickets to the CGT finale.
I'm going to come over here.
I know.
yes.
I heard that.
And if you ask a question, you're being put in the draw for that. So
Did you hear that, everyone? So say that again, Lindsay.
We're giving away tickets to the CGT finale, so you get to come hang out with me and Shania Twain and Howie Mandel and Catherine Ryan and Cardinal Official. It'll be fun.
Okay.
We didn't even talk about the whole Shania thing. How fun is that? We're going to get to that in a second.
We can get to that.
Okay.
Actually, my question kind of relates to that.
Well,
Yay.
perfect.
So my question is for Lindsay. Now, you've been so busy, okay, between Canada's Got Talent, touring with Shania, your own tour dates. What is the longest you've been home the last, say, 6 months?
I love this question. In the last 6 months, the longest I've been home was like a week and a half, I think. But that was like a good time. I like got some food and put it in my fridge, and
That's
yeah,
enough time to watch a couple sad movies.
I mean, you'd like
And
to hope
reset.
so.
Yes.
But also, when you get home and you haven't been home for a month, you have like dentist appointments. And, you know, like all of
Do you
these
have
things.
You have animals.
Yeah, and thankfully, I've been in Las Vegas a lot over the past year, playing with Shania and finishing her residency there, and I was able to bring my dog with me.
Good.
So Hendrix was
Good.
happy.
So Hendrix was
Hendrix
so
was
happy.
happy, okay.
She hates being being left at home.
Hello, ladies.
Hi.
Lindsay.
Yeah.
You just mentioned you were touring with Shania, obviously.
I love it.
You were wonderful. When you're like kind of thinking about your musical journey and touring with Shania, obviously an incredible opportunity. Are you looking for more opportunities like that, or would you rather focus on your independent stuff, or kind of where does that fit into your career path?
Playing with Shania is like the coolest dream I never knew I had. I obviously have looked up to her ever since I was a little girl, ever since I was 6 years old, really. And I remember teaching myself how to sing on No One Needs to Know. It was like one of Shania's first singles, like that song that she's singing like on her white porch. Yeah. For the original movie, the original Twister movie.
Oh, yes, I remember that version.
And now, fast forward like a couple decades, and I'm playing that same song like 3 feet away from her on stage. And some moments, like during the show, I would be like, is this really happening? Like my 6-year-old self would be like, no way. That's not possible. So this whole thing has been very, very wild and so cool. I mean, I've gotten to learn from an icon, and she's so sweet and like the Canadian girl you want her to be. You know, she's so down to earth.
Life is about experiences, so why wouldn't you want to have an experience like that?
Yeah, she's so down to earth. She is like the down home, like rural Ontario girl that you like really hope she is. Like that is who she is. And she's also brilliantly an icon and has broken records in the music industry that I don't think no other woman will on the face of the planet.
And doesn't really get enough the credit that she deserves for that.
Yeah, I mean, she's just had such an incredible career and such an incredible life. So when she asked me to play guitar for her on the road, I was like, yeah, how can I say no to this? This is going to be once in a lifetime thing. But it was like weirdly bittersweet because yeah, it's not playing my own shows at the same time. So it's like the coolest thing on the face of the planet, and I'm like so grateful that it happened and it is happening. And
will you go back on the road with her?
I am playing a few more shows with her. I don't even know if I can announce that, but yeah, I am playing a few more shows with her.
We can cut this if we need to.
Pardon?
We can cut that if we need to.
Yeah. I mean, I'll ask my people.
Yeah, we can ask.
But yeah, I'm playing a few more shows with her, but I totally miss playing my own shows, and I totally miss touring, and you know, getting to release all this new music has been so exciting. And I just every night on stage, I'm just like dreaming on like production things and lighting things and how I can bring all these new songs to life. And so it's like a both and. It's like I love playing with Shania, and if like another really cool superstar celebrity would want me to sit in with them on guitar, I probably couldn't say no. Like if Harry Styles calls me tomorrow, I'd be like, you know, I mean, maybe I think I could make some time for that. But I can't wait to play my own shows too.
What's one thing that you have not accomplished yet that is on your bucket list?
Oh gosh, a lot of things. Ever since I was a little girl, people were like, what's your definition of success? I think people ask you that question throughout your whole life. And I've always said I want to headline arenas by myself, like ever since I was a little girl. So that's like probably number one on my bucket list. And then, I mean, my bucket list is 100 things.
What, I love that. So what's one thing that has nothing to do with the music industry? You're like, I've always dreamed of this, whether it's going to a place.
Yeah, I would love to write a book one day. I would love to see Machu Picchu. I would love to create like a healing center one day where people can come. I know
this.
It's actually on my bucket list.
Oh my God! I just said we're going to Portugal, Ryan and I, in September to look at property because I want to start like some sort of healing center or a place where you could go and have like either a retreat or a yoga retreat or, you know, a music retreat. But like okay, well, it sounds like we need a partner.
Hey, let's
I can
talk.
design it. Okay, yes, we have a question back here.
This one's for Kortney. My name's Caitlin. I just wanted to know two things. One, I know it's Lennox's birthday today.
Oh,
Sweet 16.
Happy
Round of applause. 1, are you terrified? I know you have other children for her to drive. And 2, what is the name of the sweet kitten that you guys adopted?
Oh my goodness. I love that you know so much. So yes. So Lennox is my youngest, and she turned 16 today. And this is the first birthday I have not been with her, but don't worry, she's doing much better than I am. We have been celebrating for about a week. And Lennox is going to hear this, and I don't mind saying she is a little bit of a ways from being what's called a good driver. We're working on it. Yes. My boys sort of took to it a little bit easier, more naturally. But Lennox did almost run into a tree in our own yard the other day.
At least it's in your own yard.
Exactly.
I mean, that could be a lot worse.
Oh, and it's funny because my husband is very calm. Like sometimes I'm like, is there a pulse? And so we were driving, and she said, "Can you get in the back seat?" And I was like, "I'm so sorry. Did you mean to say that? Hey, Mom, I love you so much. Do you mind getting into the back?" She was like, "No." So she's like, "Ryan is way calmer than you." And I was like, "Okay, that's fair." So he sat in the front, and I yelled from the back.
Perfect.
It was perfect. And yesterday, we have 2 dogs, 2 pugs, and a little kitten. Everybody in our house is basically allergic to cats, so we never had cats growing up, but I'm not really a cat person, but her biological siblings, who we have a relationship with, for those of you who don't know, my daughter is adopted at birth. I breastfed her. That's a whole other thing, yes. And they had a cat, so she wanted a cat. So last year, my middle kid, who was about to go to college, was like, "Mom, just cave and get her a kitten." Like, he's the one who said it, and he's the most allergic. He's like, "I'm going to college soon." So we got her this little kitten, Batman, and ever since then, she has been on my case about having another one. Aww. Because we don't know limits at our house. So anyway, yesterday I'm here, and she's there, and we FaceTime every day, and she says, "Mom, oh my God, this kitten is so freaking cute." And we're going back and forth with the pictures from this shelter. So I messaged the shelter right away because, of course, I have a little bit of mom guilt for not being there for her birthday. And I was like, if I could pull off this surprise, well, I did. And so today, we were FaceTiming all morning, but Emma, who's sitting in the audience, we had it planned to post when she was downstairs eating breakfast because I knew she would see it because she'd be tagged. So we posted and said, a big birthday message and said, "Swipe left for your present." For your surprise.
So sweet.
Yes. And so we have a million names going in a family text thread right now. None of us can agree. It is Lennox's, final call, but I want Pip and she wants Snowball. So, and you don't even want to know what the boys' suggestions there were. They are very much college age ridiculousness. Yes. And I'll tell you this, we'll cut that. And I'll tell you this, that one of them wanted to name it BJ.
Right.
Like, definitely.
Of course.
Not
gonna happen.
Your sisters, yes. And he's like,
it could
be Betty Joe or Betty Jill. And I was like, right up.
Yeah.
So, yes, there you go. Another question right here.
You do so much. I've been following you for a while now. I've watched some of your shows. It's like, how do you do it? You've started a podcast. You do The Brick. You're filming a new show now.
Yes.
Here with Kenny, right?
Yeah,
Can't
with
wait
Kenny.
to see that. And you've done the other shows, and you're raising your family. You're very hands-on with your family.
Yes.
And your trips.
So hands-on, I've left them for 7 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm Mother of the Year right now.
So present.
It's the first time for everything.
You're just so present with everything. How do you do it without losing your mind? And you take a lot of.
Oh, did I give you the impression that I don't lose my mind? Well, then I'm not as real as I thought on social media. I sometimes lose my mind. So I'll tell you how I do it. One of the things, and you guys are going to laugh, and I was talking about this. I was actually at the home show earlier, the National Home Show this morning, speaking. And it is representative of the new show called Life is Messy. My house is in order. Not in like some people might say OCD way, but in just I have no room for clutter because I can't come home and see a project. So my home has to be the place of which I rest and I dream and I hope and I break down. It can't be for anything else, right? So that is the first thing, one of my first tips. The other is I use a to-do list like nobody's business. So all of the apps and all the things, I basically write everything down on a to-do list and I will do things that are like mundane, like unload the dishwasher, organize the closet, go get the groceries. And I do that because I need to feel a sense of accomplishment at the end of the day to keep me motivated. And anything that does not get done gets pushed to the next day. But mainly, I have girlfriends and an amazing husband. Ryan is the sweetest. He does all the cooking in our house. So for the first, in my previous marriage, I did all the cooking. I loan him out.
I know. We're going to snap to that. Okay, Ryan.
No, it's the sexiest thing ever. Yes. So kudos to Ryan. My girlfriends keep me in check. And so, sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's too much. I actually got to a place in my life recently where I felt like I had everything under control. I don't believe in balance all the time. I think it ebbs and flows, right? So just like Lindsay, she might be on the road and doing a commercial and doing these things and writing a record, and it's nuts. As long as you can find time to turn that upside down and be restful and reset and watch Life as a House, then you'll be fine, right? So for me, that's worked. But I like being busy. I do. I like being busy. I just also really freaking love my family. So we do a lot of movie nights. We go out to dinner a lot and enjoy each other and bowl and do all the things. But that's what resets me, them and my girlfriends. Yes. And one more question. Okay.
I am Kristen. My question's for both of you. I know we talked about some serious things earlier and some funny things, so you could go either way. If you could unlearn one habit, what would it be and why?
I love this question.
Ooh, if I could unlearn that I don't need everybody to like me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't need you to like me. And it's perfectly fine if you don't. I'm not going to be for everyone, and it's not my job to get you to like me.
Yeah.
And I think in my 20s and maybe even my 30s, I felt like the ultimate people pleaser. And I also felt like in that marriage, I also was covering up a lot of stuff. So anytime I get real serious, I do. I take a gulp.
It's about to get real.
Yeah, it's about to get real. But I felt like I was covering up so many things. And I was always having to, in fact, so many people, even on the crew, because my crew, I consider them family, have said, you're lighter these days. Back when you were filming Masters of Flip or Meet the Wilson, or not maybe Meet the Wilsons, but Masters of Flip and the first season of Making It Home, I was a big ball of stress just trying to keep my shit together, keep my family together, and do everything that I thought I was supposed to do because, I'm not supposed to let my family fall apart. And when I let go of all of that control and I let go of what people would think of me, I was free again. Mm-hmm. How about you, my friend? Let them let me, yes.
I so feel that people pleasers thing.
Do you?
Sure.
Are you a 2 on the Enneagram?
I'm a 3.
Ah, interesting. Taylor
with
Swift.
I've been told I don't have wings because I'm like equal parts 4 and 2, and I don't really know what that means. But
I don't either.
I definitely feel the people pleasing thing, but I would unlearn trying to be a perfectionist. I feel I have spent so much of my life just trying to get things to look perfect and being like they will only accept it or it's only going to be successful if it's perfect, and just trying to embrace that life is messy sometimes, and sometimes those messy imperfections are actually so beautiful and like happy little accidents that the real beauty comes out in.
Because everyone gets hit by the shit stick of life.
Completely.
Right?
Completely.
Everybody does.
Everybody does. And
that's
I think
where all the lessons are.
Yes. And I think it's when you can get vulnerable in those places where we feel not alone.
Guys, we really appreciate you being here with us on the first live Shit Stick of Life podcast. Thank you so much. Until next time, we will see you soon. Of course, listen to wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Thank you, Lindsay. Woo!
Thank you, Kortney.